Good day, students. How are you? I hope you're all adhering to all the rules and regulations concerning COVID-19 pandemic. Today, you're listening to your physical and health education teacher, Mrs. Izudoje Uni Okmani from Federal Government College, Port Harcourt. This lesson is for SS3. The topic is drugs and drug abuse, its effects on the health of individuals and sports performance. Now we look at the objective. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to 1. Define drugs, 2. Itemize and explain terms associated with drugs, 3. List the adverse effects of drug abuse, 4. Write drugs that are generally abused and their various examples, 5. Explain the term doping in sports, 6. Mention the health consequences of drug abuse, 7. Write the effect of drug abuse on sports performance. Now we are going to look at the main lesson. What are drugs? How do we define drugs? Drugs are chemical substances that bring about physical or chemical changes in the body. These physical or chemical reactions of drugs in the body affect the behavior of individuals. Drugs are also defined as chemical substances, which when taken influences or modifies the action of the body and mind. It is distinguished from food and substances that provide nutritional support. Now let's look at the terms associated with drugs. We have drug abuse, we have drug addiction, we have psychoactive drugs, and gateway drugs. Now let's begin to look at what each of them is. Drug abuse is the taking of drugs without professional advice or prescription, where individuals take drugs just on their own or gotten over the counter. Drug abuse is also regarded as use of drugs in amounts and methods which are harmful to abusers. Drug abuse have the following effects, namely suicide attempt, divorce, vandalism, robbery, social indifferences, poor muscular coordination, emotional and physical breakdown, untimely death, and psychosis. Psychosis are insane group who have no contact with reality. Now we can see actually, the effect of drug abuse. We have robbery there, we have vandalism, we have suicide, and we have divorce that even scatters home and renders, children in the home useless, even in terms of the educational pursuit. Now the third one, we have drug addiction. Drug addiction is a chronic relapsing disorder characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use, despite all adverse consequences. Drug addiction makes individuals who are involved go for the drugs anytime at all costs. Drug addiction is also called drug dependency. The third one is psychoactive drugs. Psychoactive drugs are a group of drugs that act on the central nervous system and have the tendency of being abused. It alters the normal working condition of the brain, results in temporary changes in perception, mood, consciousness, and behavior. The fourth one, these gateway drugs, they are group of drugs that open door for the use of other harder drugs. Example, those who take alcohol have the tendency of graduating to marijuana. Now, when you take one glass of alcohol, now you take the next one, you take the other one, and you feel, it's not doing me anything. You have the tendency to keep going higher. So it's a very good example of those that actually take alcohol. By the time you know it, they start taking other harder drugs. Right. Now we move on straight to drugs that are generally abused. We have number 1, stimulants. Stimulants are drugs that speed up the activities of the central nervous system. Examples, we have cocaine, we have benzedrine, and caffeine, which is coffee. Now, these ones are the ones, the students use so much because you want to keep awake to read. Now, mine, you can abuse it and it might have effect on you. Now, the second one is narcotics. Narcotics are a group of drugs that slow down the activities of central nervous system and release pain. A very good example is marijuana, which is popularly called Igbo. You hear the word Igbo, now you see that this is one of the drugs that people abuse. Another example is codeine. We have morphine, heroin, and analgesics. This, as you can see, these are stimulants. You can see the varieties of them. Now, most of them are in tablet form. It has been prepared and makes it easy for them to swallow. These ones are also included. They are all examples of stimulants. These ones you see now is narcotics. Is a good example of marijuana. It is a weed. It is equally abused. Like I told you, marijuana is popularly called Igbo, so it's a good example of narcotics. Having seen the picture of narcotics, they are drugs that is equally used to induce drowsiness and sleep. They have the following side effects: constipation, withdrawal symptoms, muscle twitching, runny nose, and loss of appetite. The third one is hallucinogens. Hallucinogens are a group of drugs that distorts a person's mental perception ability and produce imagined sights and feelings. Examples are ketamine and mescaline. The next one we have sedatives. Sedatives are central nervous system depressants. They act by reducing irritability and excitement. A good example is diazepam, which is popularly known as Valium. Acts by depressing irritability and excitement. We have ergogenic aids. Ergogenic aids are performance-enhancing drugs that is used to improve movement activities. A good example is doping in sports, which is an illicit method of improving athletes' performance by artificially boosting the blood's ability to bring more oxygen to the muscle of athletes. This is basically done by injecting oxygenated blood into an athlete before any athletic event. Now, another example under ergogenic aids is anabolic steroids. Now, anabolic steroids is used to increase muscle mass to enable muscle mass of an athlete to enable them perform above other competitors. And then we have health consequences of drug abuse. Number one, drug abuse destabilizes the working condition of the central nervous system. Two, it leads to psychosis. Psychosis means madness. It is characterized by complete loss of contact with reality. The third one, alcohol, which people commonly abuse, is regarded as an empty calorie because it is deficient in protein, mineral, and so on. The fourth one, alcohol intoxication, leads to hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is a condition where the amount of sugar in the blood is constantly low, and it has so many negative effects such as headache, fainting, and loss of consciousness. Now the fifth one, alcohol is capable of causing a disease in the liver called liver cirrhosis. Sixth one, excessive intake of alcohol impairs the function of the ileum and causes pancreatic efficiency. Now the ileum is part of the small intestine. We all know that digestion ends in the small intestine, and that is where absorption of digested food material takes place. Now the ileum, as part of the small intestine, has the following abilities. Now it has large surface area where absorption can take place, and it also have finger-like projection called villi, where diffusion takes place. Imagine it is impaired. Imagine it cannot function. How can the food we take get absorbed into the body? That is why you see a drunkard looking skinny and has so many problems. Now the next one, that is the seventh one, alcohol also leads to malnutrition, and abusers can die anytime and shamefully. We go on straight to ill effects of drugs on sports performance. Drugs stimulate the muscle and give the initial boosting of strength, which can collapse after a short period of time. The second one, athletes who are on drugs may not judge well in executing movements. Third one, athletes become unstable in the field of play and exhibit giggling behavior. The fourth one, athletes become hostile and aggressive to other athletes, even to officials. Generally, drug leads to drowsiness and lack of concentration. Now we go on straight to reasons why people abuse drugs. Number one, to fit into a peer group. 2, to imitate others. 3, to feel high. 4, to excel in competition. And 5, to escape peer pressure and emotional distress. Now remember what we've talked about. We're talking about drugs, drug abuse, and its effect on health of individuals and sports performance. Remember, we defined drugs. We talked about drugs that are generally abused. We talked about drugs generally abused. We talked about health implication or consequences of drug abuse, and down effects of drugs on health on sports performance. Please, I want you to take this particular topic seriously. And then we talked about now reasons why people abuse drugs. Like I said before, to fit into a peer group, to imitate others, to feel high, to excel in competition, and escape from peer pressure and emotional distress. Now, there are assignments we need to do at the end. When you read it well, understand it well, and do the following assignments. Now, the assignments goes like this. What are drugs? 2, explain each of the following: drug abuse, drug addiction. Now, the third one, what are the adverse effects of drug abuse? The fourth one, mention drugs that are generally abused and their various examples. Now, the fifth one, what is doping in sports? Sixth one, write 5 consequences of drug abuse on health of individuals. And then finally, the seventh one, write 5 ill effects of drug abuse on sports performance. Now, when you do this assignment, please forward it to this email. Now, remembering to write your name, the class, subject, and topic. Thank you very much, and stay safe.